The NBA trade deadline for many teams is a way to improve and fix problems that teams did not see coming into the NBA season. And what I want to do in this video is talk about what every NBA team's biggest weakness is that they need to address, not only just for this trade deadline, but just in general, because some of these problems are internal problems that could be fixed with just time, or just because of the timing of how things are may be better to be addressed in the offseason or the season after. Now, for time's sake, I will divide this into two videos, one for the Eastern Conference and one for the Western Conference, so this video is not too long, and I just like, my stuff organized like that. So there's that. But before we go forward with the rest of the video, let's give a shout out to the proud sponsors of this video, SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an app that brings tickets from all over the web, puts them into one app so you can find the best deals for whatever event you want to go to. They give each ticket a score of 1 to 10, and then they proceed to show you the color-coded map of the event venue, with all the best deals marked with a green dot and the worst deals marked with a red dot. And they have really useful features as well, such as showing you what the seat looks like before you go, as well as showing prices with ticket fees included, which I personally love because I really don't like ticket fees. And actually, I might, keyword might, be going to a Celtics Thunder game soon, and I'll definitely be using SeatGeek if I go. And if you guys want to go to a game yourself, or as a matter of fact, if you want to go to any event really, thanks to SeatGeek, you guys can use the code BSouls for $20 off your first purchase. Links will be in the description, and once again, shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. I can't say many people didn't expect the Raptors to be this good, because a lot of people did expect them to be this good, but the Raptors so far this season have done a really good job of meeting their high expectations, unlike some other team who also had some high expectations. But I see the little winning streak though, Boston, I see it. And this is a team that this season addressed a lot of their issues from the season before, with the coaching change that they made and the addition of Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green to the team. However, if there's one thing that is concerning to me, it is Kyle Lowry, who has been absolutely, I don't want to say that word, but let's just say he's been extremely underperforming the last 20 or so games. In the last 20 games, Kyle Lowry is averaging only 12 points a game on 37% shooting from the field and 29% from 3. Now, his playmaking ability has improved this season, averaging around 9 to 10 assists a game with not a lot of turnovers, so I give him that. And I'm not implying that they should trade him, but Kyle Lowry needs to improve his scoring ability if this team wants to go deep in the playoffs, and I know for a fact that he can do better than this. The Milwaukee Bucks have arguably been the NBA's biggest surprise, and this is a team to me that does not have a lot of weaknesses. It was probably the hardest for me to find a big weakness for, and I had to do some consulting with the HTP Discord for some help on this one. Link is in the description if you guys want to join. But if there's one thing that does concern me about the Bucks, it would be the bench. Because as I was looking at the bench stats across the league, everything that I saw pointed towards the bench either being middle of the pack or near the bottom half of the league. Now, looking at their personnel and how they've been playing so far, they seem fine with their bench. But like I said, if there was one thing I would look into if I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, it would be improving their bench. The Pacers so far are building upon their success last year, and they've really established themselves as a really solid team that is very well coached, and not just a team being carried by Oladipo. However, not many really mention Indiana when it comes to teams that could possibly come out of the Eastern Conference this year. It's always been Toronto, Philly, Milwaukee, and Boston, even though Boston's the 5th seed and Indiana's the 3rd seed in the East. And the biggest reason is simply the lack of star power in this team. They have a lot of really solid role players, but aside from Victor Oladipo, they really need another solidified star in this league to be taken seriously. Now, that's going to be hard with them being a small market, but nonetheless, this is the one thing that is holding them back from being taken really seriously by the rest of the league. I know you've seen the memes and the jokes about Ben Simmons shooting, and rightfully so. If there is one thing that's really holding this team back, it really is Ben Simmons shooting. Now, Simmons is really good in the things he's good at. That is why, despite him being a terrible shooter, he's still averaging roughly 17 points on nearly 60% shooting, and he's an amazing passer, and we all know that. But we also saw what happened to him in the playoffs when the game slowed down and there was more half-court play. My man was flat out exposed, and his lack of shooting really did cost them the series because they played so much better with TJ McConnell on the floor, but being the star that Ben Simmons was and still is, they couldn't just bench him the whole series. And this season, there has been some slight improvement in his mid-range game, but that's not really saying much, and he's still below average from the mid-range area. And I know half a season is not enough time for Ben Simmons to become even a 30% shooter from behind the arc, or more than 3 attempts a game, but until that happens, until he makes significant strides in his shooting, that will be the biggest weakness of the 76ers going forward, and that must be addressed one way or another. If you want a really full in-depth video on what's wrong with the Celtics, check out my last video. But to keep it short for the people that have already watched it and know my opinion on this team, it pretty much boils down to having too many shot creators on the team, which in turn ends up with a lot of players that need the ball in their hands to be effective, not having the ball in their hand enough to be effective. And right now, they could really use some Aaron Baines type players that just do their role really well and don't try to deviate much from it. However, from what I have been seeing from the past couple of games, some of the players are making the necessary adjustments for the betterment of the team, which is really nice to see. Huge shout out to the Brooklyn Nets, man. They've had a really successful rebuild out of the horrible 2013 trade and are definitely headed in the right direction, acquiring players that they bought low on that would give them a huge return. But while their ability to make something out of nothing is definitely impressive and they need to be given credit for, this team is still far from a contending team. And for the Nets, it's simply just a matter of doing what they're doing right now and finding more talent to add to the team. Whether that be continuing the development of their young players, finding stars in the trade market, or positioning themselves as a good free agent destination in the future. But with all things being considered, they are definitely headed in the right direction. So for these three teams, while some of the details are different, their overall problem is pretty much the same. And that is the fact that these teams are in the NBA purgatory. The area where your players are too bad to be competing for anything special aside from like a 7th or 8th seed in the conference, but too good to be one of the teams tanking for a top 5 pick in the upcoming draft. And the reason why these guys are in the purgatory in the first place is simply a lack of identity and direction. Like, what is Miami's plan moving forward to get stars to come to them? What is Charlotte's plan with Kemba? Why can't Orlando properly develop their young players? One way or another, there is something going on with these three teams that they're just the definition of mediocrity right now in the NBA. And in my opinion, that is the worst position to be in for an NBA team. Even worse than, the Phoenix Suns or the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are definitely worse than these teams, but they do have a direction and a plan moving forward. Shout out to Blake Griffin, because it was just last year when we thought Blake was one of those players who didn't adjust properly to what the game is right now, but this season has proved that he has done just that. But when it comes to the Pistons as a whole, I think their biggest problem is the backcourt and wing positions, which are the two most important positions in the game right now. Their front court is set with Blake and Andre Drummond, but right now their backcourt is Reggie Jackson, Reggie Bullock, and Bruce Brown. Like, if that is your starting backcourt, you need to make some changes. But I think if they can make some improvements in this area, they could be very interesting in this Eastern Conference. Okay, I think it's clear as day now that the Wizards need to do something about John Wall. It is now year 9 and he still hasn't developed a consistent jump shot, and he has not led them to anything significant outside of 2017 where they lost in the second round. In the past couple of years, he's been very injury prone. As a matter of fact, he's actually out for the season this year. And I know John Wall has been the face of Washington basketball since they drafted him, but this is a team that needs a massive makeover in terms of culture and personnel, and that all starts with how they deal with John Wall moving forward. I think it's very clear what these 4 teams are trying to do, and it's the right thing for them to do. As bad as they are right now, they are doing the right thing, and they just need to add more star talent and young pieces on their team. That's all it comes down to. So keep doing what y'all do. But there you have it. That is every Eastern team's biggest weakness or problem that they need to address. Like I said in the beginning, I will be doing part 2 for the Western Conference next. That should be up on Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at BSouls. Subscribe to the channel for videos every Tuesday and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Let me know what y'all think about the teams I talked about in this video. What do you think their biggest weaknesses are? Let me know in the comment section down below. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm out. Peace.